In the words of Dwight D. Eisenhower, this world of ours must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate, and instead become a confederation of mutual trust and respect. As students of a large university such as Tech, we often forget about the community surrounding us and take for granted the services geared towards us. We often fail to see how our services, our actions impact others in the city, more specifically, how we interact with children and their parents. We must bridge this gap between ourselves as students and the residents, specifically families of Lubbock, to make everyone feel more comfortable in our city. So this starts with becoming aware of what our presence here means for families in Lubbock and why we should care. From there, we can find ways to make Lubbock a better place to live for everyone. To begin, let's discuss some of the issues facing families in Lubbock and in general to a college town. This begins with mixed residential areas. Although many of us live on campus or in housing geared towards students, students living off campus in residential areas is not uncommon. And in an article by the Scholar Stretch Network, it is stated that with students regularly moving off campus to rent houses or apartments in residential neighborhoods, long-term residents and public officials have to deal with an ever-changing array of young neighbors who live very different lives than most of them do. Unfortunately, the late-night schedules and loud disturbances typically associated with students and people our age aren't included in the ideal environment for raising a family. In an article by Michigan State University School of Journalism, various residents of a college town were asked for their opinions on raising a family near a university. Complaints were raised about living next to racket students, and one man even went so far as to say that he tries to get as far away from the students as he possibly can. Another issue facing families is the lack of family-oriented opportunities in the city. According to the Texas Tech website student population listing and the U.S. Census records, the student population of Lubbock matches up to about 18% of the total population, making college students one of the largest demographics in Lubbock. This means that the majority of things like businesses and activities are going to be geared towards us, the students. Pushing families and other residents aside, the large number of students also means that many attractions geared towards families are going to end up being very crowded. Say like main event, you want to go there with your friends on the weekend. This means that having a family outing on the weekend can be a very troublesome and tiring endeavor for the parents. And of course, it's easy to say that as students who may just be visiting the college to get their education, that our impact on the lives of others has really little to no meaning to us. Which brings me to my next point of why we should care. Aside from our sense of community and caring for your fellow man, consider why someone may choose to raise a family in the area. The fact is that many of the professors, TAs, and other maintenance staff of the university have families, and they've chosen to raise them in Lubbock so that they can provide us with our education and do us a service. Community is by nature interdependent, and this goes beyond the people that serve us as students, to include firemen, doctors, and local law enforcement. Generally, anyone whose occupation it is to serve others. Whether we consider ourselves citizens of Lubbock or simply visiting students, the fact remains that we all depend on other people in our daily lives. And we interact with these people who do us a service, and we owe it to them and their families to be considerate and do our part to make sure that everyone can enjoy living here. Because whether our experience here is temporary or more long-term for those of you who live here or plan on staying in the future, our presence here impacts the people around us, and it's important that we make sure that it's positive rather than negative. So that brings me to ways to help. How can we help the community around us and bridge the gap between students and the residents of Lubbock? This starts with small courtesies. One of the simplest ways to make Lubbock a more ideal place for people of all ages and backgrounds is to be accommodating in public settings and give others small courtesies. This includes avoiding vulgar or inappropriate language in public settings and dressing modestly when you're going shopping, places like the mall or Market Street especially, far away from campus. This also includes letting families with children be seated with you ahead in restaurants if you have a large group of friends, because it's going to be easier for you to wait than it is for a parent with 3 children and keeping displays of affection very appropriate. And of course, avoid going out to family-oriented attractions while drunk or intoxicated, obviously. Don't go to an arcade or play park after getting busted at a party. As an example, and considered things like this, even at the simple courtesy level, makes those around us feel more welcome and comfortable going out and interacting with us as students. And of course, the biggest way to get involved is volunteering. Another great way to build a relationship between students and the community is to go out and get involved. There are several organizations that run all year, like mentoring programs, as well as seasonal volunteering opportunities for families and children. Some of these include Easter egg hunts recently. Many of them are put on by churches and other organizations in need of volunteers. There's also campus events like Safe Treat around Halloween, which is easy to get involved with and happens right here. Other fun Halloween events include carnivals, pumpkin trails. I personally love the holiday, so I was involved with several of these last semester, and it was a blast. You can donate a jack-o'-lantern, light candles on pumpkin trails, or volunteer for games. And it doesn't have to be a student-exclusive thing either. I know plenty of churches do like a trunk or treat, and you can also volunteer to run games at local carnivals or things that are more oriented for families. And that's just one time of the year. If you don't know where to start, Lubbock actually has a volunteer center, and they have several listings on their website. There's also volunteer fairs held at the Sub. I think the last one was in February. So you can find what best suits you, whether it's something you choose to do in passing or something you actively seek out. Being a positive part of the community is what's important as a student. Whether you're making others feel just as welcome in Lubbock as you were made to feel coming to Tech. So, in conclusion, whether we consider ourselves part of Lubbock or simply students just attending college, we have a responsibility to those around us to make Lubbock a place that is family friendly. This comes from being aware of how our presence affects others and why it's our duty to make others feel as welcome as they have for us. So whether you choose to make a small change to accommodate others, or become active in the community through volunteering, I challenge you to think about your place in the community of Lubbock and how you impact the families around you.